Heyo everybody, Haku here with a Tower of God discussion video that's, honestly, kinda like, you remember all of those old videos I used to do with a bunch of research where it was like, kinda like lore explanation stuff. Dr. Bonehead has done a bunch of them that are really good too. It's gonna be kind of like that, but this topic is on rule-breaking powers in Tower of God, and because of the nature of this topic, I spent the last, good week or two doing my research on this and putting together and compiling notes and everything. But with this topic, I tried to take these little data points we have here and there, and not everything is explicitly stated by CU. So it's like I tried to take all the information we've got over the course of 500 plus chapters, 500 plus blog posts, and put it all together in a way that I think makes sense, in a way that I think is organized, to try to make it easier to understand. But there are going to be things that I bring up here where I'm like, I think this is how it works, or it's kind of questionable, could go either way. So also, this is between a lore info discussion and a theory-ish, headcanon-ish, hey, what do you think? Respond to me, we can talk about this kind of discussion too. There are going to be things where I'm like, this is how I think it works, but, I'm not 100% sure, so I'm going to let you know because I don't like saying anything that isn't 100% sure to me without letting you know that, hey, I'm not 100% sure on this. And there's also going to be things where I'm like, I don't think this is true, I don't think this is how this works, but I didn't leave it out of the video because I felt like there's enough there that, I could be wrong. I don't think it's how that works, but it's at least questionable enough that, hey, maybe I should leave it in the video, maybe I should actually talk about it. But in order to have this discussion, the main bulk of the discussion is going to be on rule-breaking characters with rule-breaking powers, and how that all works. But to make it, sort of more organized, I will quickly go over first, split it into 4 groups. The first group is going to be Axis, who pretty much make their own rules. Next will be Irregulars, who the rules don't really apply to in the tower. Third will be Rule Breakers, characters with some sort of item or power within them that allows them to break the rules, who act in the story and in the lore almost like pseudo-irregulars or like partial irregulars. And the fourth group is just going to be another short one that's like situational rule breakers, characters that can break one specific rule, or they can temporarily break a rule. This isn't going to talk about things like artificial beings, which are questionable, like the God of Guardians or the High Leech Monk or anything like that. And it's not going to talk about Floor of Death residents, or how the Name Hunt Station works, things like that. Or Akryung, because we don't know enough about Akryung. Because all of that stuff isn't really a general rule-breaking power. It's more like the rules are different and work differently on that floor. So yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that going on in the story too, where certain areas and floors are just going to have their own tweaks to the way the series usually works to make it more interesting. Like the hidden floor was made of data and stuff. I'm talking about general kind of pseudo-irregular sort of rule-breaking powers. But yeah, to talk about Axis first, the only one we know of is Phantominium, or Phantaminum, and I didn't want to put him with the rest of the Irregulars because the rest of the Irregulars kind of has a little bit of similarities, but Phantominium is just his own thing. He's an Axis. He gets to make his own rules. Axis are characters in the Tulse user story universe, the universe around Tower of God. Apparently there are plenty of them outside of the tower who can basically just make their own changes to the story. And because Axis's powers cannot be stopped or interfered with by anybody who isn't an Axis, it's been said by CU that even the strongest non-Axis can't really do anything to even the weakest Axis because they make the rules. So Phantominium has the power to write whatever he wants into the rules, into the story, and whatever Phantominium writes into the story cannot be, what's the words that were specifically used here? It can't be erased or changed. So again, I think the god outside of the tower probably in Axis 2, the god of the tower, maybe even the same character there, probably in Axis 2. Like, we don't know if, like, actual gods exist within Tower of God, so whenever I hear something like that, I'm like, probably in Axis, because we know they do exist. So yeah, Phantominium, off on his own. Next is going to be Irregulars, who are the 13 Great Warriors, Zahard, the 10 Family Heads, V and Arlen, Bomb, Rachel, Enryu, and Yurik Mazano. And you know, at first I was going to be like, yeah, like Rachel's weird compared to the rest of them because she's weak, but they've said that like she is really special in her own way. But then I'm like, Enryu's weird too because he didn't actually really climb the tower. He just kind of showed up, killed the Guardian, and left. So Enryu's weird too. Bomb is weird because Bomb technically was born in the tower, but then went out of the tower and then was revived and came back. So like, if he was born in the tower, is he technically a regular? But no, like all of the Irregulars, from Bomb to Rachel to Enryu to Yurik Mazano, who kind of like fits the 10 great or 13 great warriors like a little bit better because he actually climbed the tower like that. Yeah, they're all weird. They're all different. They all have their own things going on. But yeah, the rules just don't apply to them. Bomb just straight up says, rules, no thank you. It's not even like he's breaking them. He just walks right by them and completely ignores them. So yeah, they are outside of the rules, basically. Also, there are two questionable questionable cases for Irregulars to me. The first questionable case is Yeon. I always pronounced her name Iyarde, but I think it should just be Illard. Yeon Illard is a relative of Yeon Hana, who has had all of the children of the Yeon family, but those children have the same sort of 10 family powers as all the other members of the 10 families, and it's said that Yeon Illard is a relative of Yeon Hana. So doesn't that mean that she has to be an Irregular as well? Because if Yeon Hana came from outside of the tower, she couldn't really have a regular or a relative inside the tower, you know what I mean? So I feel like Illard has to be an Irregular too. Like, that's the only thing that makes logical sense to me. And I guess in general, from what we know, there could be a bunch of other Irregulars that we just haven't been told about yet for whatever reason. And the other questionable one to me is, I don't really think he's an Irregular, but it is questionable, and that's Grace Mercier Lezlec, or Grace Mercier Lezlec, who is a character that I've always hyped up in the lore for years and years and years. But the thing is, we know that he climbed with the Great Warriors, that he was stronger as a fighter than some of the Great Warriors. He's the leader of FUG. He's ranked higher in the ratings or rankings than some of the Great Warriors. And his family name is Grace. And also, Arlen Grace's family name is Grace. So, if they're related, is he older brother to Bomb? But that wouldn't really make sense. Like, I always thought, like, I guess maybe he's an Iyarde situation, whatever that means. I guess maybe I always thought, like, maybe he's brother to Arlen. I don't know. I don't really think so. I don't think he's an Irregular, but I don't know why he has the same family name as them unless he adopted it. Maybe Arlen took him in and adopted him. Maybe that's why. But yeah, I have no idea where to put Lezlec exactly, because he's at the very least, I totally think he's a rule-breaking character, but I can't rule out him. Like, this is another one of those things where it's like I can't rule it out. I can't rule out him being an Irregular somehow. I don't think he is. I think the story that we know of him contradicts that, but at the same time, I can't rule it out logically. This is another one of those things where CU hasn't just been super clear to us yet, so I can't really rule it out yet. Next, let's talk about the actual rule-breaking characters, the actual meat of all this. And I think the rule-breaking characters might also explain some things, like how we have characters like Bayek Ryun or Grace Mercier Lezlec or Malik 1 PGR who are rated above some of the family heads in the rankings. Because for me personally, I'm like, I don't care how influential you are. I don't care that you're the leader of FUG. I don't care that you're the leader of Wall Haikzong. Like, to me, unless you have some sort of rule-breaking power that allows you to best those people who are Irregulars potentially, like I said, so you had said that Grace Mercier Lezlec is a stronger fighter than some of the Great Warriors when it comes to battle. I think that there's no way you should be rated higher, because they have the, like, government authority and power. They're heads of the 10 great families. Plus, they're irregulars. They don't follow the rules at all. They're so far, like we've seen of Traumerei, they're so far above all the other existences of the other characters that unless you have something that lets you potentially circumvent that, there's no way you should be rated higher, in my opinion. Like, there's no way you could be more influential. I don't care if you're the leader of this group, you're not more influential to me than somebody who you could not even touch in battle, potentially, because of the contract and the rules. So I think some of the people like Malik 1 PGR, it would not surprise me at all if they're a rule breaker in the future. I think it pretty much has to be the case for Bayek Ryun from what we know of him, and from Grace Marcela's Lek. In fact, the first entry in the rule breakers that I want to bring up is Slayers. I think Slayers have to be rule breakers, all of them, because without rule breaking powers, FUG are just a bunch of edgy cosplayers. Like, unless they have the power to actually slay one of the family heads, there is no point in making a person a slayer. And I also think that it just so happens to coincide with there are a lot of strong members of FUG who aren't slayers. Like Jinsung is not a slayer, and that's because Jinsung doesn't have any rule-breaking powers that we know of. But there are other characters who Karaka wasn't even a high ranker yet when we first met him, and Karaka was, because I think he has a rule-breaking power. We've seen the same thing like Yama, rule-breaking power, White, rule-breaking power, and they just so happen to be slayers. So I feel like that's kind of like a prerequisite for being a slayer, pretty much, is that you have to be somebody with a rule-breaking power. Plus, we know, like, first on the slayer list, White. Arie Hone literally said it was possible. Hey, if you stay here, you'll never be able to surpass me, but if you leave, become a devil, do all this crazy stuff you're doing, then yeah, you can do it. So Arie Hone pretty much confirmed, yeah, they can do that. Plus, White's powers are crazy nuts, like, definitely bend the rules, straight up break them. So White's the first one up there. We know that Wangnan, with the way he had, like, they brought up that, hey, this doesn't follow the rules, this doesn't make sense. Wangnan doesn't, like, the way that Wangnan exists or works doesn't, like, actually make sense. When he had his heart pierced and then healed in a day, and everybody's like, wait, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't follow the rules. So we have that with Wangnan, who happens to be one of the princes or bosses or whatever you want to call them. Karaka seemingly the same. Karaka's a slayer, so again it would make sense. Okay, somebody with the prince power is a slayer. So I would say probably Wangnan, Karaka, all of the bosses, the at least two that we've seen so far, all of the prince characters are probably rule breakers as well. So the slayers, the prince characters, then Calavan. We know that the Mui Jongsu, or the Essence of Bravery, Essence of Nothingness, Null Essence, that was outside of Zahard's Empire. Zahard's Empire didn't know about it. Jinsung found it, Calavan absorbed it, made it his or whatever, and Jinsung wanted to make him into a slayer. Calavan's powers are rule breaking. We've also seen Calavan do some stuff that just doesn't make sense for normal characters. So again, slayers, princess, then Calavan, and then of course in the slayer category we have Yama, likely because of the thing that he got. Plus he has Akranak, and I don't know if Akranak adds into that or not. But we have Yama, who is a slayer, who does have one of the 3 pieces of the Fang, and then I would say formerly Doom, because remember, FUG wanted to make Doom a slayer. Doom also had one of the pieces before he gave it to Yama. So I would say Doom probably doesn't have rule-breaking powers anymore, but he probably did before he gave his piece to Yama. And that also means that Yusracha, who's, again, presumably, from what we know, again, the backstory has kind of contradicted itself a little bit. Like, the way Doom tells the backstory when we have the first fight with Yusracha, or no, the second fight with Yusracha, contradicts the flashback we got from Yusracha. So again, that story has contradicted itself, and I think there might be some reasons for that. There's some things we don't know yet. We need more flashbacks of like how Doom and Yusracha's interaction went after Doom's parents were killed. So yeah, Yasracha probably also rule-breaking powers, and that also means that like Wang Wang and Nen Nen probably did in the past, because Nen Nen was the host of the Akranak. The Akranak was in a Slayer, which may have been her, or may have been somebody before her, so maybe having the Akranak makes you a rule breaker. And then of course Wang Wang, because he was the one that was born with the fangs. And remember, it was something that he was born with that allowed him to escape the normal rules and the normal way things worked in the tower. And it was like the fangs of rebellion that like nobody can tell him what to do and he can escape from the rules and stuff. So again, the three people that was split to, Wang Wang probably formerly, and the three people it was split between, Yama, Doom, and Yasracha, probably all had rule-breaking powers. Doom probably lost his. And then lastly, for rule breakers that I'm pretty much certain about, is Bayek Ryung. Because we know that Bayek Ryung, from the lore stuff, can control Shinsu without a contract. Or like when he was a child growing up in the forest or whatever, he learned to control Shinsu without a contract. So either that's a rule-breaking power, because that does not make sense. He's an irregular and doesn't know about it because he entered the tower and wound up in this forest. Also, doesn't make sense to me. I don't think Bayek Ryung's going to be an irregular. I think it's more likely a rule-breaking power than that he's an irregular. Or the third option, maybe he doesn't have a rule-breaking power. I think he does since he's rated so highly though. But maybe the third option, which was something that for a long time was my theory on Bayek Ryung. Now, we know that people from the 10 great families are born with contracts already set. So, since he could control Shinsu and was just like raised in this forest alone, like surviving on his own or whatever, that always made me think, what if he's the child of one, or potentially even two, but what if he's the child of one of the great warriors? That would mean that since he's technically from the 10 families, he would have been born with a contract, and that's why he could control Shinsu without a contract. So yeah, my theory is that either rule-breaking power, probably, and or could be the child of one of the great warriors. But yeah, that's my thoughts on ones that are for sure. Now we have some questionable ones. Now the first questionable one I have are the hosts of the ancients or the ancients themselves. So like, Rak is a direct descendant, from what we know, of one of the 5 parts that the legendary giant split himself into. Also likely the case of the bison Sasanuo and the elephant Sasanuo that Kelhelm and Evankel have. Plus Akranak was again an ancient creature that was sort of within one of the Slayers in the past, and we know that there's something special going on with Highbrider. Highbrider can't be controlled. To me, Highbrider has some design similarities to Akranak, so maybe being the host of the Akranak or the host of the Highbrider could potentially make you a rule breaker. Maybe Kelhelm and Evankel are rule breakers because they control the original elements. Remember what Yeon, I'm pretty certain what Yeon does, like Yeon Yiwa, is using sort of flame elemental Shinsu, or like a better example than that, because the Yeon family's kind of special too. A better example than that is Quattro Blitz, is using flame elemental Shinsu. The Shinsu quality is fire, but what Evankel's using is different. Evankel isn't using flame elemental Shinsu, Evankel is using actual flames. Rock is using actual rocks. Kelhelm isn't using like vines of Shinsu, but actual plants. So they use original elements, which is weird, which is different. Don't know if it's rule breaking, but also the biggest evidence for this is that Kelhelm thought it was possible to assassinate Zahard. He was a high-ranking member of FUG. He was the leader of the Hidden Grove after Dawan and Cha. So I don't think he would be dumb enough to think that it was possible to assassinate Zahard, and like he would have already known about the immortality contracts. Everybody knows about the immortality contracts. So the fact that he thought he could assassinate Zahard tells me that ancient hosts probably break the rules. And he thought he could get around that contract, but what he didn't plan for was Zahard to be able to see even further into the future, and Kelhelm, he thought I could assassinate Zahard, but he didn't expect Zahard to have the hands he has. Zahard has hands. So, yeah, that's how that worked out. And then there's some more that, again, I doubt, but I wanted to put in the video. I feel like I can't rule them out. First are living ignition weapons like Beta, Emily, Horyang, and Kasano. I kind of feel like they're still like stuck within the rules. I don't think they're rule-breaking powers, but it is possible. They do have like the devils within them or whatever. So yeah, Beta, Emily, Horyang, and Kasano, maybe. And the other one I wanted to bring up is the canine or feline people in general, because it's kind of been made to seem as if like beastification / transformation is an actual rule-breaking power itself. And if that's the case, maybe all of the canine or feline people can do it, but I don't think so personally. I think it's just the ones who have the fang of rebellion or whatever that Yama has, or that Wang Wang was born with. I think that is what makes them rule-breaking. I don't think it's any canine or feline person. But I could be wrong about that. I thought it was at least worth throwing in. And like another asterisk to put there is the Mad Dogs. Remember, Elliot thought that he could become a Slayer candidate if he helped White. And I'm pretty sure Vargarv wanted to defeat Viol and get named a Slayer candidate. I think that's what the Mad Dogs wanted in general. So the Mad Dogs, maybe it's not because they're canine people, but remember, like, CU has, like, retconned so much stuff with the canine people that I don't know what to do with all the info that, like, was formerly in the blog posts. But this wasn't even in the blog post. In Workshop Battle itself, we talked about blood fusion and how they had the blood of multiple different great families within them, and it gave them special powers, so maybe that makes them rule breakers. So maybe it's not the canine people as a whole, but maybe the Mad Dogs are rule breakers. So again, the Mad Dogs are kind of disappointing compared to the other rule breakers if they are. But yeah, maybe the Mad Dogs are rule breakers. Either that or FUG was just lying to them about them being a potential Slayer candidate. I think that's possible too. That's something that you can go through all of Tower of God from the very beginning, and sometimes characters just lie to each other. Which I think is I thought it was so cool in early Tower of God. Now that we're later on, it makes things very confusing. But in early Tower of God, I love that CU was like, yeah, sometimes you can't trust the information and lore drops you're given, because sometimes characters like Yuan Sung are just straight up lying when they're giving you your lore drops. So there's always the chance that they could have just been lied to by FUG. That makes total sense too. But maybe they are... maybe they're rule breakers. So yeah, quick rundown on the rule breakers since that was a long conversation. Quick rundown is the Slayers, the Princes, the Slayers, the Princes, Calavan, probably Doom in the past, Wang Wang and Nen Nen in the past, probably also Yasracha, almost certainly Baek Ryun, potentially, questionably, people who were hosts of ancients or descendants of ancients like Rak maybe. And then, I doubt it, but again, possibly living ignition weapons, canine or feline people, but I doubt it, or Mad Dogs, but again, kind of doubt it. But maybe, who knows, we don't know, it wasn't specific enough, I can't give you an answer, we can talk about it, we can discuss it, but mostly we'll just have to wait on more stuff from CU. Then lastly, to talk about the characters who are limited or temporary rule breakers, just super quick before I end the video. Liboric's Division Commanders. Liboric's Division Commanders can break a specific rule, like Arya breaking the rule of the way time flows, or Urayo being able to break the rule of how REA swordsmanship works, and they can break a specific rule because they were experimented on by the workshop and modified, but it does seem like there's drawbacks to that. So yeah, they are not real rule breakers like Calavan or the Slayers, but they can break a specific rule, like one specific rule, and then the other one is one that I wasn't even going to include in this video. I was just going to put the division commanders who were experimented on by the workshop at the end of the video, and then I've been watching Kick the Can Productions read through, so I've been basically rereading by watching that. And in Workshop Battle, I always thought that Reflejo just used the Shadow of Pokken to like get buffed up and be like, oh yeah, now I'm a B rank regular power or whatever. But no, what he says specifically isn't that it makes him stronger. He says that he can escape the rules. And again, that's quote what he says. He says he can escape the rules by becoming one with a piece of Poken's shadow, and that makes him stronger, but it would kill him. So again, it's like what we see. Like, irregulars, when Bomb first started out, he wasn't as strong as some of the people who were actual regulars. But the thing is, because he's an irregular and can break the rules, he can kind of keep progressing. Even if he's weaker than Caliban, he can still injure him because he can just bypass his defenses and stuff, because he just, the way things work doesn't work the same for Bomb. So again, that's the thing, like, it doesn't just make Reflejo's skills better, it just made it so he could escape the rules, and that makes him stronger. Irregulars are stronger just by the fact that the rules don't apply to them, and pseudo-irregulars, rule breakers, can be stronger because they can break the rules. So again, this is an interesting thing to bring up too, like when it comes to, like, I don't like power scaling and stuff, but when it comes to power scaling and stuff, it's like a character can be stronger than another character, but another character might be able to break the rules, or the rules might not apply to them if they're an irregular. So you have to take that into consideration as well. Also, another thing to mention is that Poken's shadow is said by Reflejo to be thousands of years old, and that's something else that you can see with a lot of these rule-breaking powers, is that who knows what's up with the demon thing that White's got going on. And we know that the Fang was something that was potentially the Tower's way of raging against the evil experiments that created the Beast Folk by giving Wong Wong the thorn that lets him break, or the Fang that lets him break free of that. But what we see from a lot of these, like if the descendants of the giant, or the people who are hosts of them, can break the rules, that's powers that are like older than Zahard's empire. We see the essence of bravery, essence of nothingness. It's something that's ancient and existed outside of the empire. Poken's shadow was thousands of years old. Does that mean Poken himself is a rule breaker? Probably, I guess. But most of these things are just like super ancient or exist outside of the empire, and so that kind of like sort of explains why some of them are rule breaking, I guess. But yeah, I guess expect to see more of those as the story goes on. More kind of pseudo-irregulars. Because they're not real irregulars, but we need, like, again, in order to stand up there with the people who are irregulars, we're probably going to see that more. Bakryung, almost certainly, all the rest of the Slayers. It'll be interesting to see how Pafama Morsetto fits into this, how Immort fits into this. There's still one Slayer we don't know about. So it'll be interesting to see what their powers are, because again, I'm assuming from every single Slayer we've seen so far, they have a power that breaks the rules, so I'm assuming the ones we haven't seen also break the rules. Also, doing the research for this, I can't wait to see Mershela's Luck. I always say that, but I can't wait to see Yeon Yarde as well, or Illard, because I don't understand what they are quite yet. Like, Illard has to be an irregular, right? To be a relative of Yeon Hana, right? Has to be. That has to be the case, right? So there might even be more irregulars we don't know about. So yeah, that was the video. A lot of research done there. Thank you for sticking through it. And also, like I said, a lot of things where I tried to put it together the best I could for you. And there are things that, like, again, I really strongly think that Bakryung is a rule-breaking character, but he might not be. That's just something I really strongly think, and there are some things that I don't think, but I'm like, maybe I can't rule it out. So there's lots that, tell me what you think down in the comments. Tell me if you think this works a certain way or it doesn't work another way. It's one of those things where CU, just in the blog posts and in the story itself, has not been completely 100% like lucid with it, so we don't completely know how things work, and I think that's for the best. I think being able to discuss it and go back and forth on it helps it out, so long as it doesn't get too nonsensical, obviously. But yeah, tell me what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Like if you did like the video, comment down there, tell me what you thought. Follow on Twitter if you want. If you want a link to the Discord server, ask and I'll give you a link. It's free and open for anyone. Subscribe if you want to. More Tower of God, much more on the channel, like I've said before. Reviews every month, reactions every week, plus much more like this. I've got a bunch of other videos that I'm thinking about doing right now. I just wanted to do this one for now. I was busy working on the research for this. then I guess also if you want to help support the channel on Patreon to help me to continue to make videos, it is patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or a link will be in the description. Either way, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.